Young man, do you want to succeed, to expand beyond your horizons? If you want to be free, then you must learn to master yourself, your thoughts, feelings, your body and spirit. Master your subjective consciousness. Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. The world outside of yourself is ruled by those who are not ruled by their base instincts. Young man, go forth into the world after this. Meditate, contemplate, then plan and execute an action towards success. Take a risk, break the rules, and be disciplined within self.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what draws behind the curtain, the face of evil lurking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising and hearts are compromising, convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest and the righteous in your corners.
Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, 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 welcome. Daylight savings time, reminding you guys here while it's still nice and early before you forget to show up where you need to be at tomorrow morning, Monday, before you forget that meeting that you're supposed to have on Zoom, right? Before you forget to drop your kids off at school or whatever it is, because we have sprang forward. Spring forward and fall back. That's the way I remember it in terms of when is the good. This is the bad one. This is the bad daylight savings time, right? It's not the good one where you get to sleep an extra hour. Ain't that right, LAR?
No, I like this one actually. The sun's up all day and all night.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it seems like yeah. Actually, Dr. Thunder also forgot, and he's going to be late. And it seems, well, Kaizo did not consider that at all because we're over here in Africa. And I looked at my YouTube channel. That's why I remembered. But I would have missed this. But ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and click that like button and click the share button as well as you come in. Because today we're going to be talking about something rather interesting, okay? We're talking about the weight loss drug, Ozempic, the $1 trillion drug, which is making this particular company called Novo Nordisk pharmaceutical company, making them a $400 billion company kind of overnight. Okay, rather interesting. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about NVIDIA and what was going on in that space. Well, in the healthcare space, it seems like there's a particular breakthrough, right? And what have you heard about this particular drug, Ozempic or Manjura? You're seeing ads out there and stuff. What have you heard about this stuff?
They they have a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but they have commercials all over the place about taking it for diabetes and weight loss. So I've heard them on the radio. I've seen them, even on the YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, and television for sure. So it's constant, but and maybe it's because of where I'm at. Because in Houston, uh, obesity and being overweight is pretty much a normal thing. So I'm sure they got a big market down here.
Hmm. See, I've been hearing about it on a couple of podcasts that I listen to. The guys talking about using it and recommending it as well, talking about the fact that this is a game changer. It's great. Um, because basically this is something that was out there for diabetes, right? Specifically, I think it was for type 2 diabetes. I'll get that right. Correct me if I'm wrong out there. But basically, Ozempic is the brand name, right? That's approved by FDA for fighting type 3 diabetes, not type 2. And then there's another drug called Wegovy, which is the brand name for weight loss. Now, both of them contain this thing called semaglutide. Semaglutide, okay? Semaglutide basically is the active ingredient. Both Ozempic and Wegovy contain this particular content here. It's not an alternative, okay? It's not an alternative to lifestyle changes. And that's the thing. Because when I first heard about this and people were like kind of hyping it up and everything, I'm like, well, is it just like magic? Because I know there's no biological free lunch, right? You can't just do something and take a pill and it just does the magic. We're not at that kind of level of nanotechnology biologically yet, or gene therapy or doing that kind of stuff. I don't think that's what this is doing. This is just a regular old chemical. So basically, it's not an alternative to lifestyle changes and should be used along with diet and exercise and all that kind of stuff. And basically, what it does is it improves blood pressure. It actually regulates your blood sugar as well. So it's going to do the kinds of things that you would need to do. Um, LAR, you go to the gym, right? And you're out there in Texas as well, meaning you're kind of very well aware of the bad diet of America. Texas is not as bad, right? But I'm sure
Yes,
you
it
know what I
is.
mean. So you know that when you eat certain types of things, right? Your body changes, your appetites change, your the way that you crave things change, your gut biome, right? The different bacteria in your gut, all through your gut, changes, and it's a struggle to pull yourself back out, right? So it's not just a question of going to the gym, right? But there's certain things about how your metabolism works, the hormones and everything that gets effed up when you're not right. And then when you start getting yourself right, after a while, you notice, hey, you know what? You're drinking more water. You're not craving certain bad things as much. Your metabolism, perhaps, speeds up in certain regards and slows down in other regards. And things kind of happen in that way. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So this kind of helps you along those lines. But still, you're going to need to exercise. You're going to need to diet, right? Um, let me just ask you one thing right now, because black men do not have great statistics when it comes to being overweight. There's obesity, you have diabetes, etc., etc. Now, people give different reasons for why this is the case: racial discrimination, high rates of incarceration, unemployment. It's like, okay, whatever. Okay, let's put those aside. But there is one particular reason that I saw, and it's called cultural barriers. And I was like, that's an interesting one. You mean you like drinking grape soda and smoking Newports? What's a cultural barrier to being healthy, right? Uh, but that's, and then it talks about health education. What do you think about these two aspects? Okay, health education and cultural barriers. In the health education aspect, I'm thinking, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't know what good food and bad food is. There's even, I mean, it's common knowledge in terms of memes and understanding that, hey, this is bad for you versus this is good for you. I think everybody knows that. What are your thoughts? Because basically they're saying, that the black community is not well educated, kind of seeing that as an insult. That's why they're not as healthy. And then they talk about this cultural barriers. What do you think about these two aspects? We could take it one at a time and kind of break it down.
I think it's BS because I think America is overweight in general. And the vast majority of American food that we call American food, I ain't gonna say the vast, a bunch of it's over half derives from black cooking in America. Hamburgers are not us, but barbecue is. All these fried chicken spots, y'all want Chick-fil-A count, Wingstop count, all that fried chicken stuff, that's black America. All the vast majority of these dessert places, that's black America. So what winds up happening is the vast majority of these seafood restaurants, that's black America. Because they're always trying to, this is Cajun. Cajuns don't cook the type of seafood that they sell at these Cajun seafood places. That would be considered Creole, would be black, because they're trying to fake the Louisiana thing. So I already know what that is. So what it is ultimately it's portions. It's overeating. That's where we have a problem in this country. You eating too much of stuff. So that's the first issue. The second is, and it's people aren't willing to eat less or eat healthier. That's just the long and short of it. People say that lie all the time. Well, it's more expensive to eat healthy than it is to eat junk. No, it's not. Creole is not French food. It's not French food.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah.
In America, Creole is not French food. Because French people don't make crawfish. French people don't make fried fish and fried shrimp. French people don't make étouffée. French people do not make jambalaya. That is not French.
Let's take piece by piece the things that you said. Ladies and gentlemen, as you come in, click that like button. Okay, we're talking about the future of weight loss, the future of healthcare. We're going to talk about opportunities within this industry as well. We're going to talk about the fact that, hey, why don't you go and start investing or perhaps looking at opportunities, careers, places where you can make impact with regards to these kinds of opportunities or breakthroughs, shall we say, in pharmaceuticals, right? But when it comes to black men and then the overweight, obesity, diabetes, and that kind of thing, you mentioned portion sizes, which is 100% correct. But I also want to add one particular thing. It's true that it is a quantity thing that I'm going to mention, but what do you think about the sugar issue? Because one thing you'll notice is, let's just talk about barbecue sauce alone, right? Or most anything that people call sauces in America tend to have sugar in it, right? Yeah. And you're not supposed to be doing that. Like there's nowhere where you should have access to that much sugar. And then you're still going to eat a dessert. Like the ribs might as well have been the dessert with as much sugars in that damn thing, right? But what are your thoughts about that, the prevalence of sugar in the American diet? Do you do that sugar sauce on everything, or you?
Yeah, no, but I mean, the prevalence of sugar is ridiculous, but I don't think it's any different than it used to be. To me, older stuff was more potent. It was better. But because what I've learned over time is this: for one, sugar is an addiction. Some of y'all people who got a drug problem, I bet you can kick your drugs better than you could the sugar. So I could tell you that sugar is definitely an addiction. And same thing with like the portion sizes, you were intaking more and more and more sugar. And one thing that I forgot about is in the 60s, 70s, 80s, somewhat in the 90s, people weren't as overweight, but they were eating the exact same things that we're talking about. The difference was America got more comfortable. It been more amenities over the years. So, you walked more. People didn't even work out more. They were outside more. They walked more. They played more. They did more. They did more things in the summer and in the spring and in the heat. The cars weren't, the AC wasn't blasting like it is. The houses didn't, the air conditioning wasn't like it is today. So a lot of this is we're eating quote unquote bad foods. We're eating too many portions and we're not sweating.
Mm-hmm. So we have this sedentary lifestyle, sitting behind a desk or carrying an iPad around with a big gulp from 7-Eleven, and then eating all this craziness for lunch like you're a farmer, right? Like you're about to work a few acres. I mean, and even the farming, what I mean by like you're a farmer, like you're a farmer, like back in the day, subsistence farming, not sitting in the tractor pushing a couple buttons, because even that guy is getting fat, right? That it's a difficult situation, right? But let me go ahead and break down a few more facts here about this thing. Ozempic is a once weekly injectable medication for type 2 diabetes, and it helps people to lose weight. Is the thing that's happening now, and I believe Oprah is on this right now. Oprah is on the Ozempic, and I believe she was a spokesperson for Weight Watchers, and she stepped down. She stepped down because of this. She stepped down saying, "Hey, I'm using drugs. I'm getting pharmaceutical help, so I can no longer be a spokesperson for that." So Ozempic works by basically lowering blood sugar, increasing insulin, decreasing sugar production, and slowing the food digestion, right? Research has shown that Ozempic can help people with obesity lose about 15% of your body weight in combination with lifestyle interventions. Now, a couple of words about that thing is, look, the reason why you have to use this lifestyle interventions is because you cannot just continue to, you can't depend on this thing because of the liver damage that all pharmaceuticals inevitably do to you, right? Those of you that go to the dentist and get hooked on Vicodin, and you like to have a little bit of wine with your Vicodin and zone out and watch Netflix. Yeah, you know who you are, Flexed Up or whoever else out there. No shade to you, Flexed Up, but that thing ruins your liver, right? It ruins your liver. It also it dehydrates you, and it does all kinds of things to you. So same thing here. You cannot just go permanently on this type of a weight loss drug or do enough without doing the lifestyle changes because of the deleterious effects it has on your liver, and also because it messes with your receptors. We hear about this receptor thing, right? Like, okay, if I take too much cocaine, it messes with my dopamine receptors, right? You're basically short circuiting or just over supercharging and pushing a particular button in yourself too much, and you literally break the button, right? So in this case, the buttons and series of buttons associated with that kind of insulin and the other hormones and the regulation of sugar and whatnot, you're going to break that button if you continue to push this, right? So one of the things you were saying, LAR, so what do you think will happen here? You think this is just a formula for lawsuits coming in the future? People are going to overpush this button. People are going to start doctor shopping for Ozempic. What are some of the downsides you see here? And would you consider using this, like using it correctly, let's say, to kind of maybe help you get back on the wagon or off the wagon, whatever the hell the freaking thing is, when you fall off and you need to get back in the gym, you need to get that body regulation back in gear quicker while you do the other things. What are your thoughts on that?
First and foremost, it's a setup from jump because it's for type 2 diabetes. Type 2 is you. You did type 2 from everything you kept doing. All you have to do is stop doing what got you into that. And most people, and I know people who got type 2 diabetes. Like I used to tell my homeboy, he had type 2 diabetes. I'm like, you keep doing this, you're going to lose something that you really want. He was like, what? I was like, erections, fool. And he's like, well, I'm about to get in shape. I can't lose that. So type 2 is all you, your diet, your sedentary life, your overeating, your overindulgence in sugar. So when you give people the option to say, well, you can keep doing what you're doing and we're gonna give you this shot and that's gonna stop. I hate to break the news to you, but it's not gonna stop. Because because these people are gonna still inhale the sugar. You're still gonna eat things that cause you to get into this mess. So you're gonna take a shot, eat some more, because I took my shot, because this is America. Let's be honest. People abuse drugs all the time. All the time. I took my pills, so that doesn't matter. It's like, it does matter. So all you're gonna see is people who they're gonna take this stuff, they're gonna eat worse, and they're gonna have other health complications. Because even if you was able to lose the weight, because I saw one of the side effects for Ozempic was your eyes. It could damage your eyes, and I'm thinking to myself, you're gonna take something that's gonna mess around and make you go blind because you don't want to eat vegetables and fruits.
Yes, 100%. Yes. Things that have to do with so glaucoma, I believe it's called, right? But things that have to do with insulin and messing up your insulin receptors definitely could mess up your eye as well, because diabetes, does do that to you. Someone is saying that Ozempic causes cancer. Everything causes cancer, right? Everything causes cancer in modern life. Have you heard about the microplastic stuff?
Yeah.
Do are you actually, and if you've heard about the microplastics in the chat and you're actually going to do something about it, I'm going to put a poll actually, but put a 1 in the chat. Are you considering stopping using plastic bottles? Okay. Now, it doesn't end there, because people talk about plastic bottles and water, right? How about the plastic for your yogurt and your butter and your, and on and on and on and on and on, right? There's lots of plastic that goes on. How about the wrap for your chicken and all these other things that you do? So, what have you heard about the microplastics that have been found in people's blood now, and how perhaps serious it is? And are you going to do something about your plastic use, LAR?
No. I mean, what exactly can you do? Like what exactly can you do? Like, I've learned a lesson a long time ago that some of our issues aren't necessarily like, oh, it's microplastics and everything. Microplastics, that's interesting. Well, how about do yourself a favor? Don't. If you get water bottles, everybody tells them do not, common sense will tell you don't put that plastic bottle in heat. But what do people do? They buy a bunch of water bottles, they put them in a garage or something like that, and they're gonna heat up. So it deteriorates slowly. So that's part of how you get that. When it comes to going out to eat or going to fast food, once they wrap that stuff, you unwrap it 2 seconds later. So that's not going to be an issue. A lot of this stuff is, and it's unfortunate to say this because I'm about to be petty. They're telling that to people with water bottles. They ain't saying nothing to the people who buy candy.
Oh, that's a double whammy right there. You got plastic in your sugar.
Yeah, don't you, oh my, if these water bottles are contaminated, these plastics are contaminated. But that's some Snickers and M&Ms you got there, some Skittles. Oh, that's no big deal. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. That's still wrapped in plastic, ain't it? And that sits out longer than the water.
So some people here are recommending, what I've heard in some podcasts, right? They're like, oh, you have these glass bottles that you can buy. Let's say you go to the gym and you take a plastic bottle now. Well, generally speaking, people have filters in their house, whether it's a filter connected to your fridge, or you can buy these water filters, and you can fill up these glass bottles, right, which are dishwasher friendly, and then put them in your fridge, and then you pick up one glass at a time. Now, glass is heavy. This is the first thing. Okay, glass is heavy. glass breaks, and so some other things like that. But what are your thoughts about, hey, get these glass bottles, fill them up with water, grab it and go to the gym, or grab it and leave the way you would do, put it in your bag or whatever, as opposed to having plastic? Is that a bridge too far?
Way too far, because people have those mugs already with the straws on it and get sick because they don't clean them right.
I wonder if metal, like, because I'd rather go metal than glass.
That's what happens with those mugs. Those mugs, those straws, those containers. All you do is people buy those. I got my water in this, and they don't clean them right.
Filters are formed of plastic.
See, the microfibers in the filters. You know what? Truth be told, I don't even know why people are concerned about this, because people aren't drinking enough water anyway.
And it's really
Go ahead.
People aren't drinking enough water anyway.
There you go.
The plastic they talking about from Coca-Cola, Sprite, Fanta, Dr. Pepper, Gatorade, like, they full of it.
So let me play a little bit of this here. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about health. We're talking about your health, and we're talking about opportunities in the health sector as well. Okay, we're talking about maybe it's time to go ahead and put your money in for some of the competitors of Novo Nordisk, right? Novo Nordisk created this Ozempic drug. Okay, it has really shot their stock up. But hey, Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, and all these other people that we have here, one of them is going to be competing. At some point, maybe, Pat, they'll be allowed to create, what do they call it, right? The generic drugs. And this is a great opportunity to maybe, triple X, quadruple some of your money. You already put in some stupid money out there. For those of you who have 401ks, already kind of putting money into the stock market. And by the way, just a word of advice on the 401k. You don't have to take it. This is not financial advice. As a matter of fact, let me take that back. Not financial advice. But if you have a 401k and your company matches it, put enough to get the match. So if they say, hey, put 6% and you match 6%, put on that amount. But don't do more than that. Okay. The reason is it's not your money. Okay. Your 401k is not really your money like that. Okay. When it's time to take it out, you do get taxed. Okay. And guess what? They say, oh, it's tax-free until you're getting retired. But at the time you get retired, it's also going to get taxed. And you don't know what the tax regime is going to be then. Okay. So it's not like you never get taxed. It's allowed to grow tax-free, but it's not tax-free forever. It's allowed to grow tax-free. But then when you withdraw it out, for those of you who are, at that age, and go ask them, you do get taxed eventually. And meanwhile, you don't have this particular money to play with. So put that 6%, get matched, and the rest of the money you were going to put in, let's say you were going to put another 4%, take that 4%, and then you can put it in the kinds of companies that we're talking about here. But let's see what we can hear here about what happened, Kaizo. Did you forget about the daylight savings time like we all did, including Dr. Thunder? He's in the United States.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Usually it's an hour later from Yeah.
No problem. Let's see about this microplastics thing, and then we'll get your take into this Ozempic thing. Let's see.
Way. I think the answer is still likely not.
No, definitely not.
And it's really a stored value system, and it's become this kind of stored value asset.
Freeberg, this microplastics thing, we talked about it on the show. And since that time, I refuse to open plastic bottles. I'm doing all glass. I'm getting rid of all this goddamn plastic. I already did glass bottles in my house because I'm cheap, and I like to fill it from my water filter. But we're uncovering more information. And then I saw this headline this week that microplastics are in our blood streams in some cases. And what the heck does that mean?
It's worse than that. A team of scientists in Italy collected samples from patients that had plaque removed from the carotid artery. It's a kind of common cardiac procedure where you get plaque that blocks up in your carotid. They go in, they remove the plaque. So a total of 304 patients agreed to have the plaque that was removed from their artery submitted for analysis. And then what the team did is they took that plaque and they studied it to see how much plastic was found in that plaque. And they used a bunch of measurement techniques to do this, including electron microscopy and mass spec. So because it's really hard to find these molecules. And microplastics or nanoplastics, remember, are less than 5 millimeters in size with a mean level of 21 micrograms per milligram of plaque. Roughly 1 per 50 is the ratio of plastic to plaque that they found, which is really incredible because it shows that plastics, these little nano and microplastics, are accumulating.
Incredible good or incredible bad?
Incredible bad. That these microplastics, these nanoplastics, are accumulating in the human body. Now, here's the scary part. They then did a follow-up 34 months later. The patients that had plastic in their blood had a 4.5 times higher ratio or likelihood of having a heart attack, stroke, or death from any cause. So all of these major health effects were 4.5
Death from any cause. That's a good one.
times elevated in patients that had plastic in their blood. This was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, if I didn't say it. It really indicates that there is this kind of cumulative problem, and that the cumulative problem is likely leading to really adverse health outcomes. And I'll just highlight one other paper from a team in Germany and Norway back in May of 2022. And this team tried to figure out how plastics are causing adverse health effects in the body. And they had a theory like, let's put little microplastics or nanoplastics together with all the human cells that we know, shake it up and see what happens. And what they found was that these little plastic fragments were binding to dendritic cells and monocytes, key cells in the immune system. And when those cells were bound by plastic, they release these cytokines and the pro-inflammatory signals go through the roof. It causes the immune system to go haywire, increases inflammation, and the cascading effects of that obviously can ultimately lead to many of the events that we're mentioning were measured in this set of patients in Italy. So again, we're just starting to uncover these effects, this concept that microplastics and nanoplastics are accumulating. Let me just say, these plastics are mostly PET, which is what we use to make plastic bottles that we drink water and drinks out of, and PVC, or polyvinyl chloride, which is what a lot of our plastic plumbing and piping is made from. And so it's little tiny bits of these plastic materials
It's in your pipes that come through into your filter.
either are exposed to sunlight and break off and end up in our water and food supply and we consume them. They are slowly accumulating in bodies, and they may be driving inflammatory response. They may be driving adverse health outcomes. We're really kind of tip of the iceberg and really studying this, understanding and analyzing it. But here's another really interesting empirical data set that highlights that this really is a pretty significant. Half the patients had it. And of that half, they had a 4.5 times higher chance of dying or having a heart attack or a stroke in the 34 months that followed. Yeah.
A little bit of shall we say, context here, and I'm gonna let me ask you this, Kaizo, right? You just heard that, right, Kaizo? You're listening, right? So
Yeah, I'm listening.
So some of the quantity things, and then some of the quality things, and then you go ahead and respond. First of all, when somebody says something is 4.5 times increase, the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, is like, well, 4.5 from what, right? It's one of those things where, well, there was a 0.1 chance if you died of a heart attack tomorrow, and now there's a 0.4 chance, 0.4% chance if you die of a heart attack tomorrow. That's increased by 4%. I mean, 4 times, 400%. But it's still insignificant when you talk about the quality, the significance, the consequence, what it means, that word meaning. Like, what does it really mean, right? So that's one aspect. And then number two, when you talk about doing studies like this, taking cells, putting it in a petri dish, hitting them with plastics, and then the cells go crazy. And then, well, what does that mean in a complex system like the whole human system, generally speaking, right? How does that correlate, or how does that translate going from A to B? A being I saw this in a cell, B meaning this is what's going to happen to a human being and the full system. These systems are complex, so on and so on and so on, right? And we're still, as he mentioned, at the infant stage of these types of, shall we say, experiments and collecting of data. What is your thought about this plastic stuff that he said?
Yeah, I mean, look, okay. Here's the thing that we know at least about microplastics, right? Plastics generally don't react with your body cells. I mean, that's why we use them for everything, water and all that kind of stuff. However, obviously, if you have a lot of microplastic in your system, it is going to start to clog up, right? It might not. Okay, so let me try to take a few steps back. The experiment that they did, that's an extreme experiment, right? That's not what happens in your body. When you put these cells, human cells or whatever they are, in a petri dish, and then you mix them up with loads of microplastics, I think around the size of 5 nanometers, or is it micrometers? I wasn't listening too well in that aspect, but I think probably micrometers, right? Anyways, yeah, when you start doing all that kind of stuff.
He meant to say micro, but he said millimeters, and I'm like, bro. Yeah.
Right, yeah, no. It will be micrometers. Anyways, when you start mixing all of that plastic with those cells, what's going to happen is you're going to break the cells apart, and once you break the cells apart, you are going to actually start inducing certain phagocytic sort of responses, right? The white cells in there are going to attack the plastic, thinking it's an outsider, right? The antigens are going to get activated, and it's going to react that way, right? That's different than if you ingest it. Your body is most likely not going to do anything because you're not broken into these cells necessarily. I think that's one of the aspects there. So that is an extreme sort of reaction. It's not what happens in your body. In your body, things get absorbed. Plastics generally won't get absorbed into your system. You'll most likely leave without so much of a reaction. Of course, in extreme circumstances, when you overload your system with foreign material like plastic, you are going to start causing issues, whether it's abdominal or otherwise, or you're going to be clogging up certain systems. But in general, it's like certain metals, right? We know the kinds of metals that can form complexes with certain things in our bodies, and we know the metals that are actually safe for us to sort of pass through, and then we also know the metals that we need them, like for example iron 3 complexing, etc., forming hemoglobin. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I've read the studies. Too much of anything is bad for you, but no, microplastics is not gonna make us all die so young or anything. There's no evidence to suggest that. And again, as you mentioned earlier about the 4 times more, 400 times, 400% of 0.00001% is still pretty low, right? As you mentioned, it depends what it's referencing to.
Yes. Because I mean, go ahead, Eliar. Sorry.
I got a general rule. I do not take health advice from people who look like they don't diet and exercise in the first place.
Coming from my man Friedberg, I knew you were gonna. I was playing it, and I like someone is gonna comment on Friedberg's voice, his nerdiness, his face.
It's not the nerdiness. I could tell by the general face and and body type that you're not active. They say all the time you should be, if the best way to have good health is to eat right and exercise. One of those is completely out of the bunch. With maybe 3 out of the 4 of those guys. So I'm not finna, it's the microplastic, bro. When's the last time you did anything physical? It's like I don't trust them.
I tend to have the same kind of skepticism towards. Now, I'll change what I can. I'll find certain, if it's convenient, let's say, to start using those glass bottles, let's say, and stuff like that. But I don't put too much credence on it. In other words, I'm not really changing purely out of fear, because I understand that human beings are what we call extended phenotype systems, right? We take stuff from the environment and use it, put it next to our bodies. And we've been doing that since forever, right? It's not like we just started doing that, right? We've been taking sticks and leaves and burning this and making cloth and blah 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 blah, and getting in boats and going into the ocean. This is what we do, right? It's part of the way the species is set up. You can't just be out there naked as a human being. Even if you want to live you want to go to the woods in Oregon because you're a white supremacist or you're a hippie. It seems like in Oregon there's only 2 extremes. Like you're either some KKK guy in the woods or you're a hippie in the woods. But anyways, you want to go there and live your natural lifestyle. You're still an extended phenotype system. You're still going to be grabbing stuff from over here and pulling water from over there and passing it through this tube over there, blah, blah, blah. You're not, and by the way, you're still going to die no matter how much you avoid. So you might as well, cut your losses, as they say, and you can't worry too much. And as LAR is pointing out, if you're not working out, exercising, and you're having 2 peach cobblers every night after your crazy barbecue sauce drenched ribs, and then we're like, but I don't use plastics, and besides this guy, right, you're gonna find some fat person, with greasy fingers and a sweaty face somewhere in a restaurant telling you about how she doesn't use plastics while she's taking down a 3rd helping of cheesecake. So that's inevitable as well. But Kaizo, since you just came in, let's go ahead and let's get your take. I did like a brief breakdown, but not perhaps as in depth. But type 2 diabetes, which LAR has told us about a little bit from the point of view of you're the one that bring it on to yourself. But also Ozempic, maybe you can bring on some of the more scientific aspects of that compound and what it does as far as helping with type 2 diabetes, and how now it also helps with weight loss, with, of course, with a combination of lifestyle interventions as well. You go ahead.
Yeah, so type 2 diabetes, there's a couple different types of even type 2 diabetes, right? So on one hand, right, the most common type of type 2 diabetes is basically your pancreas is not producing enough insulin for your body, right? However, sometimes obviously this can result into different things going on. Your cells in your muscle or other areas are becoming more sort of resistance as well. That is also linked to it. Anyways, so with this new FDA approved drug, right? That you guys are talking about, right? Ozempic. Ozempic became FDA approved, I believe, 2021. And the interesting thing about this drug is this, right? First of all, it does actually help reduce the effects of type 2 diabetes. So what it does is it acts as a glucagon-like peptide 1 hormone. So what it does is it goes to the same receptors as glucagon-like peptides. So glucagon is the thing that's released in your body to go and stimulate the pancreas to release more insulin. So it basically fits it in the same cell receptors to stimulate more production of insulin. So it works, right? Now, as it's obviously increasing more insulin in your body, your body's able to regulate the blood sugar levels, make it not go too high, so that your body can obviously maintain a healthy blood glucose level, right? The issues of blood, high blood glucose levels, you can have more. You can lead to glaucoma, you can lead to blindness. All sorts of things can happen when you have that, and obviously it's going to make you unhealthy, and for you to kind of take up so much fat storage. Now, Ozempic, right, or rather the actual active ingredient, which is characterized by a different name, is called semaglutide. That's the actual drug that actually causes this effect. Ozempic is more like a brand name due to like a specific cocktail, right, of a specific mixture, usually less than 2 milligrams of the active ingredient. Now, there is a weight loss effect as well with Ozempic, right? So what that means is, or rather the semaglutide, the active ingredient within it, Ozempic, that stuff actually also represses hunger, right? It acts on a part of your brain that actually makes you feel full. So not only does it make you sort of alleviate the issues of having type 2 diabetes by producing more insulin, by mimicking one of those glucagon hormones, and fitting into the receptors, it actually can help you lose weight as well because it makes you feel full. So right now, this company that owns semaglutide, right? It's a Nordic company. It's called Nordic Novo. This company's evaluation has gone up the roof. Ozempic is making a lot of money, and yeah, it's interesting. It works. The studies show that it works. It does work with that type 2 diabetes. It also helps you reduce weight up to 15% in some studies. And depending on the specific type, the one that's actually the semaglutide, right, that's actually being sort of pushed for weight loss is actually called Wegovy. Again, same stuff. It's all the same active ingredient. The difference is Wegovy actually adds an excess amount of the semaglutide, the active ingredient. So it actually makes it work better as a weight loss agent. The issue is, though, proceed to the Ozempic bullshit fund. Shout out to the sponsor
Shout
of the
out
stream.
to that's 75 Canadian. 75 Canadian is a lot. 75 Canadian is wow, out of the blue. Thank you very much, Carlo.
Yep.
Proceeds
So
to the
yeah,
booth.
so
Go ahead.
yeah, so that's more or less how Ozempic sort of works. And Wegovy is just the brand version for the weight loss. Again, same drug, acts the same way over there. Now, here's the thing: it's extremely expensive if you don't have insurance. It's going to cost you for either drug over 1,500 for you to get all your shots. The issue is here right now is that this is one of those drugs that are already within the European market. It is FDA approved for American consumption. So this is kind of one of those things that we have to think about, right? Of course, it is going to help some people, right? There are some people who were born with some kind of genetic pre-inclination towards the pancreas not functioning the right way that it should, right? We know this, right? Type 2 has been here for a while. It's not like, however, majority of the times from the research that I've seen is type 2 diabetes is caused by bad diet, bad lifestyle. It is a lifestyle disease. right? So the issue that I have with the drug like this is there are obviously going to be consequences for the what do you guys call those consequences? There's a technical term, right? Side effects, right? The side effects obviously can lead to your pancreas dying out, can lead to liver, kidney failure, all that good stuff. So at the end of the day, this drug will help, but it's not. It's definitely not going to be a solution for people that don't want to change their lifestyles. Until you, A, it's not going to be as effective if you don't change your lifestyles. B, even if you
The Joe Rogan experience.
Tucker Carlson had this.
yeah, even
Sorry,
if it
finish
did
your
become, you're more or less just going to lead yourself to other issues with over drug consumption. This stuff gets metabolized in your liver and stuff, right? So you definitely need to take care.
All right. So apparently somebody, I just found this video that said, the woman who claims Ozempic burned off her genitals. How do you burn off the genitals? Like what part? Like, all right. Okay. Dr. Thunder, how's it going? It turns out even the Africans got you on the daylight savings time. That's
oh, right. Yeah. Is that what happened? Is it daylight savings time? Is that what happened?
Yeah, that is what happened. We're in,
okay. Because I was looking. I wasn't even paying attention. I was looking at my. I mean, it's a good thing that my watch just. I mean, my phone just. It just automatically does it. Because when I got in my car, I was like, what is going on? Why does my clock say a different time? Because usually it's in sync. But anyhow, nope. I made it to my concert on time and everything, so that's all that matters, right?
Excellent. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about Ozempic. We're talking about weight loss. We've talked about what it does molecularly. Okay. We've talked about the fact that this drug, Wegovy, is the brand name for this particular chemical that has been approved for weight loss, while Ozempic still remains the type 2 diabetes drug, right?
Okay. Now, specifically, if I can add, it's the same drug. The only reason for the name change is the dosing. So the dose is bigger for the weight loss and less just for type 2 diabetes treatment. And again, it's one of these drugs, again, where they researched it for the purpose of fixing one issue, one problem, and they discovered that it had benefits in another area. And that's not similar to Viagra, honestly. Viagra actually was some sort of researched to be some sort of heart medication.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was discovered what other stuff it does. So,
Yep. It kind of thins the blood a little bit and increases blood flow, and also blood flow to other places. So everywhere benefits, not just your heart. So yes, the drug is semaglutide. Ozempic is a 0.5 milligram injection, and the Wegovy is 0.2 milligram injection. Okay. And Kaizo broke down the stuff about what it'll do to your liver if you overtake it, and why it cannot work by itself. Okay, you can also mess up your receptors, right? This is true of all drugs, right? Messing up your receptors, messing up that key and the keyhole if you overuse it. But let's go down to this. Let me start with LAR here. The sustainable lifestyle changes that need to be made, which actually you also need to do if you're taking Ozempic. So let's go to LAR and then Dr. Thunder, and let's talk about what are the types of lifestyle interventions that will help Black men improve their health in a sustainable way, and what conversations should men be having with their doctor, right? Dr. Thunder, we also whatever he's. So start LAR, do your thing, and then there's another piece I want to add to the question for Dr. Thunder. If you can just remember, there's a cultural aspect also. In other words, why do Black men have kind of different health outcomes? People give all kinds of reasons, including your favorite, Dr. Thunder, food deserts, right? Food deserts, I know your favorite. and also they talk about health education and cultural barriers and whatnot. So I want you to comment on that also, Dr. Thunder. But first, LAR, what sustainable lifestyle interventions need to happen, right? You're just coming back from the gym, right? What are the things that they need to do? They need to drink more water, and what do you got to do?
Before he goes, or is that bad behavior?
It's bad behavior, but go ahead, my Muslim, Christian, Buddhist brother.
Okay. I want to I want to add there, right? That actually, these niggas is really good at marketing, right? I'll tell you why. Ozempic is not going to work for like the second type of type 2 diabetes I mentioned, right? It's not going to work for, at least not going to work that well for niggas that have too much subcutaneous fat around them in the muscles and organs. So it's actually preventing the insulin from actually reaching the receptors. It's only going to really work for those who are the type of type 2 diabetes that is just not producing enough insulin. So meaning you are going to have to lose the weight, especially people that have visceral fat, right? If you've got subcutaneous fat, it's not so bad. It's not around the areas of your body that really is going to impact this. But realistically speaking, if you have visceral fat all around your organs and your waist and all those kind of areas, that's the kind of stuff that if you want a drug like this to work for you in type 2 diabetes, you have to lose the fat.
And by the way, the different ways in which you store fat varies from region to region, race to race, population to population. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
This is designed not to work for Black people, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, look, yeah. If you see that,
it worked for Oprah. It worked for Oprah.
Right. If you're shaped like a what does Coach usually say? Like Pillsbury,
Doughboy,
busted Pillsbury biscuit can.
Yeah, busted Pillsbury biscuit.
Yes.
It's not going to work that well for you because generally speaking, your body is going to be preventing the insulin from reaching the receptors anyways, just because of all the fat in all the ways of these drugs. And also, this is another reason why this injection is an injection rather than oral, because it has to be localized to the area. You have to get it close to the area so that dosage actually gets in there. Otherwise, it would have been an oral or something else. That's the reason why it's an injection. But yeah, go ahead, brother. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, LAR. So LAR, just to kind of remind ourselves and everybody, yes, you're going to give us some of the, because by the way, this does not work on its own. You need certain other lifestyle interventions. And here comes the question of sustainability, right? This seems to be like a temporary little fix. Why can't you just get on the lifestyle changes? What kind of the lifestyle changes need to be made by Black men? What kind of conversations do Black men need to have with their doctor? And by the way, there's only one thing that works for weight loss, and that's consistency, right? So it doesn't matter what your system is. If it's lettuce and water, just do it consistently. If it's running a mile a day, just do it consistently. Whatever is different for different people, but you have to be consistent. That's the only way. The only way. It could be even the carnivore diet, but you got to be consistent. You got to be disciplined with it. You got to trust the process. But anyway, LAR, go ahead.
First and foremost, people don't consistently take their medication who have medication in America. Second, all these weight loss things that from lap band to gastro bypass to, I forgot those other diet pills that people were supposed to be taking, the fat burner, the icy hot type rubs that you was putting on.
Fin-fin? Was it Fin-fin?
It was a few.
They found out that Fin-fin was just amphetamines. It was just drugs.
High. So, like, in all honesty, none of that stuff ever worked. It was a quick fix for a time period, and then people went back to doing what they were doing. So as far as like the Black men part, I'm gonna be, in all honesty, in America, we might be the last group to actually be able to get this regularly, because truth be told, other groups are more obese and overweight and obese, and they have higher BMIs now. I get but I'm just saying, when you go outside and you look, it's normal to see an overweight, obese white guy, Hispanic guy, not so much Asian. You get what I'm saying? So same thing with the women. it's normal for them to be big or bad built. You get what I'm saying? Well, you can say Indian, but they're not. They probably have bigger BMIs, but they have smaller bills. So we're gonna be on the back end of actually receiving that as men. It's the same process I could think about when women I'm gonna get a BBL, and they tell her you're gonna have to work out, and then she don't work out, and then she look bad built again with a BBL. It's the same thing over and over and over again. So the problem, even with this whole thing about pills and shots, to me, it's like, okay, so y'all just repackaged the insulin shot and made it something else. And I remember people who were on insulin because you got the sugars. They stayed on insulin because of diet. You know, this is when type 1 was starting to turn into type 2. It's a diet issue. And a lot of people do not want to be honest about this. But at the end of the day, if you're on the right side of capitalism, you afford it to be lazy. And that's what's going on in this country. Because most jobs, if you think about it, most of the people in the workforce are overweight. So who's actually taking care of their health in America? Hardly anybody. And on the flip side of that, half of the people who are taking care of their health in America are taking drugs on the opposite end of the spectrum to look healthier than they are.
Oh yeah, the Liver King. Shout out to him. Shout out to But
the Liver King was probably taking some insulin, but
well,
it wasn't for the reason, right? It wasn't for the reason that that's the inside pro bodybuilder jab there.
Yeah, he might get liver damage one day for all that steroids he took.
Usually they have heart problems. They have heart issues. They don't care about their liver.
So Dr. Thunder, sustainable health lifestyle choices, conversations you need to be having with your doctor, especially when you cross that 40 line. And then also, I want you to comment on this thing where they say, well, black men are not, or the black community is not as educated on health. That's why, or it's the food desert. And also there's some list here on Google that says cultural barriers. What are these cultural barriers that are keeping you unhealthy? So what are your thoughts there, Dr. Thunder?
You know, multiculturalism could actually be a way to fix a lot of these issues, because we could look at cultures that are just, they live longer, they're healthier. We can look at their diet and we can say, okay, well, what are they doing? Okay, let's try to do more of that and less of the stuff that's making us morbidly obese disproportionately. Right? That's what different cultures could do. They could look at cultures that are living longer, they're smaller people. They could look at their diet and then they could make those adjustments. But that's not what we do. We actually use it as a way to make more excuses. And you know, everybody has a cell phone. You know, and you can choose to access information that is edifying, or you can choose to watch a bunch of twerking videos and you know, stuff that's not, you know, that is not going to help you improve. You know, so you have options as to what kind of information you feed yourself. The food desert business, I think that's hogwash. I believe actually, with respect to food deserts, you could make a stronger argument that there are food deserts more likely in rural areas, not in urban areas. And then also I would make the argument that even if you define a food desert as a place where you don't have, we'll say, fresh vegetables and produce and whatnot, fruit and stuff like that, you could still go to pretty much any store and find eggs and canned tuna. Okay? You could bypass the ho-hos. You could bypass, all of the pastries and, the Snickers bars and the potato chips and the, grape soda. And you could go and you could get stuff that, sure, it doesn't taste as good. It's not as gratifying, but it's going to be a high quality source of nutrients, and you're not going to gain a lot of the, belly fat and stuff from eating that way. So I find that stuff to be just hogwash. Educate yourself. People have access to the information. Cultural barriers, I suppose. Most of it is learned behavior. Most of it is the people around me, they do this, so I'm emulating, I'm copying what they're doing. And that is, we have to give that some credibility as a reason, maybe why you got there. But once you get there and you're old enough to do your own research, then once you've done that, then it's just about discipline. And you either have the discipline or you don't have the discipline, and you have to kind of go from there. So that's my general thought. I hope we get a chance to talk about, because what some people are saying with this treatment is that there are health risks with it, because you have the side effects, the potential side effects, and then the percentage of people that are actually having these side effects is only about 1%. And then if you measure that, if this drug actually is effective in the way that they're saying it is to lose weight, if the person could actually keep that weight off, it seems to me that it would still be worth taking it. But that's a big if, because the real issue and the reason that people got as big as they got in the first place is a lack of discipline. And this is why when you look at this, I don't like this. I don't like this. I am a spirit, I have a soul, and I live in a body. The reason is because it seems to set up a hierarchy that I think is false. Your body is just as much you as your spirit is just as much you as your soul is. And so if you're obese, that's saying something about you. There is no real you inside. Your body is you. Okay? And I'm not, I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. And we all could do something to improve ourselves and to maybe take care of our skin more, or realize that the sun can be damaging to our skins, try to do things that we can do to take care of ourselves better, eat better, drink more water. There's all these things that we can do, but to try to act as though your body is less you than who you are inside is a bunch of hogwash. And I think that's part of the reason why we get here in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? Let's Kaizo, let's go ahead and reiterate, because I think we've had more people come into the panel now.
Yeah.
When we started this, I kind of gave a background, of the chemicals and whatnot, and then also perhaps touched on some of the things that Dr. Thunders mentioned with regards to the side effects and what it actually does. So if you don't mind, again, give us a nice little monologue, okay, on the active ingredients, okay, on the company itself, right? And the active ingredient, is this a semaglutide, right? Semaglutide, and Ozempic being the brand name, and the Wegovy being the other brand name, and the dosages, and the thises and the that's. Go ahead and give us the scientific breakdown of what's going on here.
Okay, yeah. So Ozempic is a brand name, right? It's not the actual. It's not the actual hormone, right? It's not the actual chemical. The actual chemical is actually called semaglutide, and that's where Ozempic and of course Wegovy comes from. Wegovy is just has a higher maximum dosage potential than Ozempic, and Wegovy is usually used for weight loss. Now, for Ozempic, how it works is you take the drug. Now, for type 2 diabetes, I'm going to focus on a specific type of type 2 diabetes where when your pancreas is not releasing enough insulin. So what Ozempic would do, right? You take the drug through your subcutaneous, they inject it, right, over there in your pancreas, right? It's going to affect the beta cells. So when you get an injection of Ozempic, what happens is Ozempic has a similar structure, not the same, right? Has a 94% homology. It's a peptide, right? It's going to have a similar structure, right? Or rather, homology is more or less the sequencing of the, I forgot what they call it. Anyways, it has a similar structure of the ATP, Anyways, it doesn't really matter, right? It has a similar structure of amino acids. So when you have this system, it's going to mimic the GLP, right? Hormone, right? And of course, that's glucagon-like peptide 1. It's going to mimic it. So when you take this drug, it's going to basically bind onto the glucagon-like peptide receptor as if it's a glucagon-like peptide 1 hormone. And that's going to stimulate more production of insulin by the pancreatic.
And by the way, if you do overuse it, right? If you overuse this key that mimics a key in this particular lock, it messes up the lock, right? It messes up the receptor like 100%. All these other drugs do. Okay.
100%, especially when it's I mean, look, analogously, right? It's similar to the whole overuse of my brain's not working today, right? Exactly, right? You can't go around overusing this drug. So you need to actually have a healthy, manageable system, reduce the fat. Here's the thing, right? The other aspect of type 2 diabetes is your cells become less receptive to insulin, right? And also your pancreas releases less insulin because it's less receptive to the GLP. So this drug, which is similar structure to the GLP, basically works a little better than your actual natural GLP being produced. That's the whole point of it, or rather, it's many different arguments there, but that's more or less what's going on. Ozempic mimics the GLP-1 by binding to the GLP-1 receptor, which causes more insulin to be produced. And of course, the milligram, the amount of the active ingredient, semaglutide, right, depends on how much insulin you want to be released to your body, which is going to have to be recommended by the doctor, knowing how much sugar you eat, the diet. That's why you have dietitians coming in, letting the safe amount of dosage that can be given in this situation. Now, also, it does mimic, repressing hunger as well by working on the specific part of the brain as well. So it also makes you feel satiated. So you actually feel like eating less as well. And again, it's not just the brain part acting, it's also the insulin part, because what happens is if you have less glucagon, right? And glucagon, of course, is the opposite of insulin, right? Glucagon actually makes you, it's the opposite of insulin. So yeah, if anyone doesn't understand, just let us know.
All right. I hope that has clarified things, and thanks, Shonda, for reminding us to make sure that things are clear here. It's a long broadcast, so intermittent clarification is necessary so that people understand exactly what's going on here. So let's move on slightly into perhaps something which is a little bit more social, tied to the weight loss aspect as well. This has to do with, look, there's an aspect of body image, right? Now, I'm going to say something which is obvious, 100% obvious. And perhaps, Dr. Thunder, maybe you can comment on it, right? Which is, you mentioned that nobody is perfect earlier. There's this idea that if you're going to improve yourself, and hence means you're going to have to point out something about yourself that is not perfect, then somehow this is going to kill your self-esteem. There's this whole self-esteem, the church of self-esteem, which is kind of grown up in the West, where, oh, children, what do children need? Self-esteem. Well, blah, 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 blah. Self-esteem, everything self-esteem, right? So now, rather than say, I need to improve something, you just say, oh, no, it's not a problem, right? So there's nothing wrong with the way I am. There's nothing wrong with the ribs drenched in barbecue sauce that I eat. There's nothing wrong with my big-boned Cajun lifestyle, right? Ain't that right, Eliar? There's nothing wrong with that. It's body positivity and all these kinds of stuff. But Dr. Thunder, it's obvious that just because you need to improve yourself, right, doesn't mean that you should then go and kill yourself, or that life is not worth living, or that you should deny. I mean, it's clearly a mental illness, at least from my way of thinking. Any comment on that aspect here? Just the beginnings of this. We're just getting into this thing here.
Sure.
In terms of
Yeah.
having a healthy self-image. Go ahead.
So I watched a special on, I think it was 60 Minutes. I sent you that same video. I think it was 60 Minutes. And where they're talking about Ozempic and Wegovy and everything. And they sort of centered their gaze on this, the Real Housewives of some Utah or something. And this white woman who has become some sort of plus size, body positivity, poster person or whatever, decided that they didn't want to be big anymore. So they got on Wegovy or whatever, and they dropped the weight. They lost 50. I don't know. It was more than that. It was, I don't know. It was probably 80 pounds, 100 pounds, something like this. So then now that community is basically coming after her because, you're a fraud, you're a phony, because, she was probably saying all of the, I feel beautiful just like I am, and there's nothing wrong with me. And this is actually what's wrong with, this is actually what is a primary issue that I have with the verbiage that comes out of the LGBT agenda. This, I'm beautiful just how I am. I'm great just like, and not only am I great just like I am, you need to co-sign that I'm great. Even if it seems totally ridiculous what I'm saying, what I'm claiming, you need to also co-sign that I'm so great just like I am, which is, I think, the reason why the sort of body positive types, the LGBT, the rainbow mafia, as it were, that agenda, why that's so on the opposite side of Christianity. Because Christianity says is, I'm a heathen, I'm a sinner in need of a savior. I need to be transformed and changed so that I can be worthy, right? So it's about addressing whatever our issues are in improving in those areas so that we might be saved at some future point, right? So it's a working out with fear and trembling. It's not a what is this term? It's about the acceptance. What is it? The ruthless. The business that Gwyneth Paltrow said that she could learn something from black women recently. Ruthless self-acceptance. It's like, no, that's not what we need, actually. We need to be able to see our own flaws, and when we're unable to see our flaws, we need other people to be able to tell us that you're a hot mess and you need to fix this, this, and this, and then we need to get out of our own way and just do the stuff that they're suggesting that we do. That's how you actually improve. That's how you actually learn from other people. That's the point of community. There are people in the community other than you, and they can see you from a different angle. from a different perspective, right? And so you're supposed to benefit from that, right? The way that we're doing stuff now is you're in a community, but you can't even benefit from the community because of this ruthless self-acceptance. Garbage. You look, you shouldn't be all depressed and all down on yourself because you're not perfect. And that's a different sort of issue, though. The issue that we have is people just want you to just celebrate them, and they haven't done anything. They haven't done anything. They haven't shown any value. They freaking dropped out of high school, and we're still supposed to celebrate them. They have three babies by four different fathers. And we're supposed to, you go, girl, you got it. And that's what's screwing us up. And that's why a drug like this, though, if it was used the right way, where people were willing to listen to others and were willing to endure hardship, were willing to delay gratification, maybe they got to this point and they made a lot of bad decisions, but at least they're humble. And they're like, you know what? I think I didn't do it right. I'm not going to like it, but I'm going to do it this way. And it's causing people to get divorced. So these people, they drop all this weight, and now when people have these surgeries and they drop all this weight, they have counseling. And the counseling goes like, you do need to know that at like an 80% clip, you're going to divorce your partner. Okay? Now you need to know that going into this is what's going to happen, because basically you're going to think that you leveled up. But the thing is that they didn't really level up. They just look like they leveled up because they didn't exhibit the discipline necessary to get to that place. They haven't even maintained it. And often is the case that people lose the weight and then they gain it back because they didn't actually improve any. But then they gain the weight back, plus they don't have a spouse anymore because they thought they could level up and get to some other stuff that they couldn't get to prior. This is also happening here. And let me say this last thing. Oprah Winfrey, recently, she just stepped down from being the spokesperson for Weight Watchers because she admitted that she was taking Ozempic, and that's how she lost her weight. Okay, so look, man, and this, of course, is being used by people that aren't like huge, and they're not obese yet. So, I want to lose 20 pounds so I look good this summer. I mean, so folks like that are using this too. So,
very, very, very poignant thoughts there. And Shonda says here, as a healthcare provider, the issue I have with these medications for weight loss is only temporary fix, right? It's only a temporary fix.
100%.
As you're saying. At some point you plateau. Yes, 100%. So what you said about Gwyneth Paltrow is quite interesting because it dovetails with the luxury beliefs theory. You see, basically, what are luxury beliefs, right? A luxury belief is a belief held and espoused in order to signal a person belongs to an elite class, right? Gwyneth Paltrow, by the way, I'm sure she has personal trainers and she watches her diet and all this stuff, right? Okay, she keeps herself in shape, okay? And she's out there talking about radical self-acceptance, right? Like, I admire you guys so much for being fat and happy, right? That kind of thing. So basically, it's basically a luxury beliefs, ideas and opinions that confer status on the rich at very low cost to them, but it takes a toll on the lower classes, right? So they espouse beliefs, promote in order to identify themselves, but they don't practice these things. E.g., like a Yale student, right, that comes from a stable 2-parent household, whom also plans to get married And perhaps it's also, maybe they already married themselves and are buying their daughter a wedding dress next week, but they'll be promoting stuff like marriages is arcane, oppressive, and patriarchal. This is 100% true.
Look, man. I did a video earlier this week, or this past week. It was on March 6th. And the name of it is Dear Black Woman, Gwyneth Paltrow is not your friend. And what I did is I took a look at a Dennis Sperling video where he's sharing his thoughts about this, and he goes down through the sort of history with this. See, this is part and parcel of this white feminist basically talking black women into some stuff that they would never do. Talking them into some stuff that they would never do. And the optics, I put a picture of Gwyneth Paltrow during this interview with this other woman. I can't remember the name of the woman that they interviewed her. And she's like an obese black woman. Okay? And she's sitting up. This stuff is like, really? This is not even, look, this is not even, so it's a backhanded compliment at best. Okay? Backhanded compliment at best, what she said. But really, it's not even that. It is just condescension. It's like when these white feminists were gassing up black women, telling them that they're strong, independent, don't need no man, the government will take care of you, X, Y, and Z, and then they were going home to their husbands. The white feminist was going home to their husband and playing second fiddle. It's that kind of stuff. It's very frustrating that stuff is so convincing, but I just think people have such a low opinion of themselves and such a higher and exalted vision of white folks that if they can get any white folks to pat them on the head and to give them some, oh yeah, you're doing good, it's just been trained into black Americans. It's really disgusting, and it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch, but it's the norm. It's the norm. Look, she should have been, if there were black folks in the audience, black folks should have stood up and started booing Paltrow, because this is the same okie doke BS stuff that they do every single freaking time. But because they're all freaking, I'm sorry, man. It's just, I'm just tired of this.
Tired of this, tired of that. Now, this pattern that you're mentioning here, and we're talking about the particulars of American society: black, white, upper class, lower class, Gwyneth Paltrow, this other black lady. But this particular pattern of behavior is something that has been true of all upper classes in what you might consider any kind of a modern arrangement, a group of people that are large enough to be that way, where the upper classes always preach a certain type of freedom and out of nature type behavior, right? That they themselves don't practice, okay? But somehow they have minds that are large enough to accept, and typically it's directed towards the lower classes. One could look at it as bigotry, a soft bigotry of low expectations, right? Like, those people can't really practice the kind of discipline that we practice and hold together these, nice values that keep our communities safely gated away from them, right? So, they can't be expected to stay fit and run and do all these things that we do out here in San Francisco. So let's preach to them about how not to be judged and how to be body positive and whatnot, right? So this is a particular pattern. And Kaiser, what are your thoughts about this, right? Is body positivity a luxury belief? Or, I'm asking more generally, the concept, or for your commentary on this concept of luxury beliefs, which are ideas and opinions that confer status on the rich, but it's very little cost to them. And it takes a great toll on the lower classes. So you want to be this crazy rebel philosopher preaching crazy ideas, but your house is 100% in order. You have order and discipline and things are running great, but you write pamphlets about being wild and free and you disseminate it to the lower classes. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so great. Sorry, man. It looks like I got TB or something. But anyways, um, hopefully Ozempic will get reduced so I can take that. Anyways, to answer your question, right, about the luxury beliefs, I will have to come out clearly. Like, I actually like the most free aspect of human nature. Like, I'm a full-on Hegelian sort of historian. I believe humanity is going through freedom, and that's what it's fighting for, right? Reaching the highest level. However, that said, I also know that most men are sheep. Knowing this, right, I do think then it's also bad behavior to give. Oh my gosh, my African's coming out. To give the average man these high level concepts, right? Because at the end of the day, like, if you take on the highest level aspects of freedom, you understand that logic can be used by these body positive people, right? At the end of the day, the argument is you don't know my health status until you do an actual full on test. And a lot of the times, my health is better than those skinny people. I'll give you an example. Abba and Preach. Abba is got sleep apnea, right? That nigga can't sleep without those masks on his face. But that fat woman that with blue hair he keeps coming for is great. She's in great physical peak health. So I think there is a logic aspect of these people and the luxury of ideas that, yeah, logically speaking, you can't make generalizations with absolute truth factor. At the end of the day, what matters is the individual. But I'm so gonna repeat myself here. I think it's a bad idea to give the sheeple these sentiments, because you're not helping them. You're only doing it to sort of enrich the fact that you are elite to them and that you can take on these ideals. For example, it's the same thing with the red pill community. A guy who's conscious can be the biggest hoe. It won't change his ability to sort of pair bond to his wife, but the average man and woman can't do that. They will lose the ability to pair bond. So it's one of those things. I think these people are seeing the average man as cattle, and they're actually kind of enjoying and revering in that aspect. With these, again, luxury of ideas comes from when you believe you're an elite. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant.
Mm-hmm. So, and one thing, and I also want you to kind of maybe comment on this, LAR, because if you are in that gated community in San Francisco, and you guys, have this crazy kind of ideas that you kind of espouse, and it's all about this kind of radical freedom, and let them, all this structure is arcane and it's patriarchal and it's oppressive, but you guys you guys run a tight ship, right? You're on a tight ship with tight security and everything. You guys are pretty disciplined and fit, and you keep your families intact and all that kind of stuff. The thing is, even if while you're saying that and your daughter is hearing that, your daughter can see examples, because people actually learn better from like examples, right? Your daughter sees that you guys are running a tight ship. You guys actually stay married, blah, blah, blah. But when that same message travels to the inner city, right, where they don't have examples of people running every day and eating right and doing stuff right, they don't have these. All they hear is the bad propaganda, but they don't have examples of this stuff. So in a rather perverse way, it keeps the lower people lower and it keeps the higher people higher. The higher people say, hey, do what I say, don't do what I do. And as a matter of fact, you can't even see me doing what I do. I'm in my gated community. You don't even know what I'm doing, right? But on the other hand, you're going to take my stuff. It's going to make you feel empowered, and it keeps you in the lower class and discipline and down. What are your thoughts, generally speaking, about, this kind of Gwyneth Paltrow telling people, yeah, you go with your fat self while she's skinny?
It's just a repackaging of marketing. For one, because first and foremost, let me back up and say this. To me, at this particular juncture in American society, the vast majority of Americans don't cook or can't cook properly. So a lot of the overweight stuff comes from, not eating out or eating fast food. So when I mean out, sit down, fast food, drive through. when you take a person like Gwyneth Paltrow, who's probably got enough money to have a chef, why are you listening to her? Because it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, when you take a person who's a movie star and you're listening to what they are saying, you forget one thing about movie stars. Their weight normally fluctuates with their role. So they're selling you a certain look with each role. So, you know, some guys gain weight, lose weight, get muscular, get slim. It's the same process. So you don't know how these people really look because you only see them when they're on camera for their role. So every time they get on camera, they're looking a certain way for their role. And even if it's a commercial. So that becomes the issue. As far as like the households and what's going on in people's households and you being a role model or influencer to somebody else's household, it's going to suck that I say this, but I'm not going to listen to a group of people that have drug problems. And that's Hollywood. Some of their weight issues and keeping off weight is because they're on dope. So let's not act like, these are the best examples for anything. Now, if you want to listen to a good example for health, wellness, and weight, you might want to do that with an athlete because it's their best interest to be as healthy as they can. But not even a current athlete or retired athlete, because that's more normal. And, we don't like to admit this as far as like the body positivity thing, but a lot of us are ruled by our own vanity. So I need to look my best and look this way and look that way. And when you go to the gym or you go online, you got people staring in the mirror, looking at themselves. You get online, you got a person who's a trainer. All of a sudden, he a damn life coach because I did 2 sets of 15 a day. Like, shut up. Because people take the physical aspect of what they want to look like and forget the basic aspect of body types in the first place. People are trying to be something outside of their own body type. So when you don't do the first thing, how do you do the rest? You never seen a fat crackhead? Yes, you have. You have seen a fat crackhead.
Wait, was crack the drug that they try to use to like weight loss, or was it like to get from cocaine or something?
Crack is cocaine.
Crack,
yeah.
Sorry, heroin.
Like heroin, yeah, that's a different animal. A lot of the drug stuff that people don't talk about is a lot of times addicts are smaller because they're basically homeless. That's what that is. When you see functional addicts, they're not there. Their body types depend. Mm-hmm. So you got to remember. I hate to say this way. Some of your favorite artists and athletes, like Mike Tyson, had a drug problem, but he was like 290 pounds. So it's more about money than it is the dope.
Yeah, I mean, if you're poor and you have a drug problem, then the first thing you're going to not do is eat to get your drug. So then that's going to crack you out. If versus somebody that's, independently wealthy, they have a drug problem, you can't even see a difference in their body weight because they're still eating because they don't have to sacrifice that. Yeah, you were. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I'm gonna keep it short. They got all these people with these pills now. You see people who sip syrup. You see how they built. People who do all these type of exotic weeds and everything else. You see how they built. See, cocaine is not America's drug anymore. Truth be told, it's pills, it's weed, it's maybe you could say fentanyl. It's
I heard there's
those
this thing called
opioid
Trank
pills.
now. It's literally made of tranquilizer mixed with some other things. Anyway, go
Well,
ahead.
that used to be a thing. It's called those horse pills. They just recycling old drugs.
Go ahead, Dr. Thunder.
Okay, so you were talking about. I like what LAR was talking about this like vanity, and people are trying to they're not even paying attention to what kind of body type they are, right? And so they're trying to actually look like somebody that they can't really look like, right? And and enters the BBL whole sort of conversation, which again is a shortcut, right? Why not go to the gym, do what you need to do, cut back the calories, quit eating all the ho-hos and everything else, and yeah, you're probably not going to have the cartoonish look of one of these, thought rappers, but you'll be more healthy. And I saw this.
So, Dr. Thunder, let me give context here, right? Now, my family-in-law, I put on a little bit more weight recently. My family-in-law thought that, they can all beat me in a race. And I raced them, right? All of them, including the soldier who's a captain, and right now is an NIS. That's our version of CIA. I beat all of them, right? So, do you not think that these fat feminists with blue hair have a point, though? Wait
a second. Kaizo, you Kenyan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all not known to be sprinters. Cut it out. Everybody in that family slow.
Yeah, but let me finish my thought first. So the BBL thing, and we used to also just think of BBLs as sort of being regional. Like you'll probably find a lot more BBLs in LA, in places where movie industry and whatnot. And earlier today, I saw a BBL chick in the Midwest at a Walmart. And the way you can tell is in this, you're talking about cartoonish, is that the legs do not go with the behind. It just looks weird, but people, that's what they think that looks good. And I saw this, it was a nice compilation of one of these guys doing a street interview, and he asked the question, to all of the women, do you think men prefer a BBL or natural? And virtually all of them said BBL. And then he went and did the same thing with men. Do you prefer natural or BBL in a woman? And all of them said natural. Now there was a context for the question. Sure, if you just want to have a good time, no big deal. But if you're looking for someone to lock something down, then you want to know what you have. You want to understand what the genetics are of what it is that you have. And not only that, but if a person had to do a BBL, you have to question the reasoning faculties of a single mother with 2 baby daddies that is struggling, scraping, but somehow is able to scratch the money together to get a BBL. Why would that ever be something that you would prioritize? So what that says is they have a poor understanding of how they should be allocating the money. If they could scrape that money together, they should have put that money in a college fund for their kids. They should not have been spending $20,000 on, on a surgery so that they can attract the same kind of dudes that left them knocked up in the first place. So there's an issue. There's a discipline issue that says they think that they can shortcut. They can shortcut. They can jump the line. They don't actually have to do it the natural way, which is to go to the gym, to work hard, to push back from the table, to do all of that kind of stuff. They don't have to do any of that stuff. Let me just save some bread up that I should be saving up for my kids and do it for this other reason instead. And so the whole thing is all messed up. Now, I will say, to Kaizo's point, I do think that there is something to a healthy self-image. Okay? But that healthy self-image should be based on realism, not based on Hollywood. Right? And certainly not based on images that are created when somebody, for a short period of time, fasted like the Dickens, didn't drink any water, didn't do whatever, till they could shrink their skin down to, you have to be thinking about this for what it actually is. What is actually a realistic look and what's actually healthy versus what is Hollywood on one side of things. And then obviously we also don't want to be embracing this body positivity garbage, So yeah.
Yeah, nice point there. Putting it on both ends. Yes, there's reality, and it's not what you see on magazines. And 100%. So let's start wrapping up, and we'll begin with Kaizo here. And Kaizo, you can mention some of the aspects of. So I think that Novo Nordisk, a Nordic company, are responsible for this particular drug, Ozempic. I had suggested that there will be competitors. Let's see how successful this is. It's already successful. In other words, if you invested in the company has already kind of gained a lot of market cap. I believe they're like $400 billion now or something like that. But there will be other people, Eli Lilly and Johnson & Johnson and, and all the rest of them are going to come in, right? They're going to come in. They're going to want to compete. They're going to want to take market share. They're perhaps going to create a cheaper version of this drug and whatnot. So you can talk about things in that nature, and as well as and then Gilead, by the way. Gilead is a company that I think between 2019 and 2021 kind of like almost quadrupled in terms of their stock because of a particular. I'll just mention this and then I'll pass it on to you, Kaizo, and then LAR can give you closing thoughts, and Dr. Thunder will wrap it up. You see, there's a lot of volatility in the healthcare sector when it comes to trading. And recall I mentioned earlier, if you were here, that, hey, if you've got a 401k, put enough to get the match. So if they're asking you for 6%, put 6%, get the 6% match. But develop the discipline to take the rest of what you would have put in your 401k and control it yourself. Because your 401k is not your money. It's controlled by your employer and the IRS, right? They control that stuff. So if you can take the rest of it, create an IRA, and then you are able to participate in certain areas that are a little bit maybe more volatile, hence there's more upside. And I'm saying that pharmaceuticals are one of them, one of these areas. Just a point there. But go ahead, Kaizo, give us your closing thoughts.
Yeah, in terms of BBLs, bro, listen, come to Africa, right? Don't go to Ethiopia. Ethiopians have got flat ass, no lips. But if you come to Somalia, Kenya, South Africa, Ghana, right, you're gonna get all the BBLs, right? Nice, beautiful, big butt, big boobs, beautiful women all around. They're all natural. And remember, my girlfriend told me something interesting, right? And it's kind of interesting because it relates to Ike's point about luxury of ideas. In Africa, people don't have food. So over here, people are so hungry that they actually look good naturally. So come here, you're not going to be out here and, seeing all these fat FBA women. So it's great. Now, in relation to Ozempic and Wegovy, and this new drug, which again, a lot of kind of praising as a miracle drug. It works, yeah, right. If you take it for a couple of like 16 weeks, you are going to lose weight, right? You're going to lose up to 35 pounds if you're on Wegovy, and maybe 15 pounds if you're on Ozempic, right? It works, right? That's really not the issue. You're going to have a less or rather reduced appetite, and if you do lifestyle choice differences or changes, you're actually going to be on a way to being a healthy person. And I do think, right, drugs like this are necessary for the future. And I'll explain why, right? Every race is different. Every genotype is different. If you come to East Africa, for example, come to Kenya, the genes here are mostly sort of nilotic admixed genes with Bantus. And if you mix those two kinds of genes, right, and of course the so-called Cushitic genes, right? You mix those genes, you figure out that these people are meat eaters. So when you give them a higher diet of starch and of course sugar, you are going to influence how fat is distributed in the bodies. The way that Indians have a lot of visceral fats, they don't look big overall, but their stomachs and their heart is clogged, their arteries and all that stuff. And that's even worse than Ghanaians, or rather, South Africans who put the fat around their ass and their thighs. And that matters, right? Because that's the subcutaneous stuff. So that's less dangerous than the visceral stuff that's clogging up your arteries. So overall, I think the point of this whole conversation is black men, right? Black women, focus on knowing how stocks works. Like right now, go ahead and just do your research, right? How to get into stocks, which companies are releasing what, look at the news, the trends, the rumors, all that stuff, and figure out for yourself if this is an area you want to invest in. This company, Nordisk Nova, has definitely increased its market cap just because of this drug. It's literally contributing to a significant portion of its annual revenue right now. And it's projected to be, by some people, over $300 billion a year drug in the next 5 years. And that's a huge, huge thing. So yeah, just learn things and bury yourself. Save yourself, black man.
All right. Go ahead, Eliar.
Kaiser said something very important besides dissing Ethiopians. If you need 16 weeks to lose weight, just go to the gym. Damn.
That's a long time, yeah.
I mean, if it's gonna take you 16 weeks to go to the gym, that's 4 months. It's gonna be a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah, and you can start like for 16 weeks in the gym. You can even start slow. The first week, just kind of roll in the treadmill, like just
Ozempic
chill,
is like
just build up.
Yeah. Ozempic is like $1,500 per month. That's expensive as hell.
Like this shows you the amount of laziness we talking about. I need to lose 20 pounds. Well, go to the gym. I need to lose 30 pounds. Well, go to the gym. I'm gonna take this Ozempic. Go take your lazy to the gym. And for a person who's been working out most of his life, I can tell you something that is very, very true. In the parking lot of every gym is a restaurant. So if you still want to eat, you can go right after the gym. Like this is what kills me about this. Body positivity, medication, blah, blah, blah. Ask yourself one simple question. You mean to tell me that you need to take a pill to make yourself look better? But here's a kicker. Are you going to look better after you lose the weight? No. Because all you're going to do is lose weight and look flabby because you lost weight. So the body type y'all looking for, it comes from lifting weights. So if you don't want to lift weights, you're going to be built how you built. That's the same thing Doc was talking about with the BBLs. The thighs don't match. You want to do something about them thighs? You want to lift something? No. You could have did some squats and got your butt bigger. Did you want to do that? No. It's all common sense at a certain point. You know what? F it, I'm going to say it. When facelifts become cheap, all you ugly motherfuckers going to get a new face too.
Hell yeah.
If you ain't happy with yourself, just say I'm not happy with myself.
They're talking to you guys.
Hey, LAR, I'm a communist, bro. I'm all for it.
I bet you are. I might as well fly to Turkey and get a new hairline. I don't like it. Like, this is what's been going on in society. Go get you some new teeth. Now y'all walking around with a mouthful of 2 front teeth. Now you got a BBL fat transfer, and you look like an in-shape cartoon that's finna be an out-of-shape cartoon because you eat bad. You're gonna take Ozempic and lose 30 pounds, and then Uber Eats their stock is gonna go through the roof because you still not gonna cook. You gonna order more stuff because you figure, well, I'm gonna lose some weight. Gonna die of a heart attack 4 weeks later because you've been eating all fat. It's one common sense way to do things: hard work and dedication. And y'all work real hard at masturbating all the time, so work your other muscles. Now I'm gonna quit.
All right. Yes, a nice little flurry there at the end by LAR Movement, still moving. Dr. Thunder, go ahead and close us out on this yet another exciting episode of Case Closed, highest level conversation on the most relevant topics in this space. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a discipline issue. It's a lack of the lack of a healthy image for oneself, one that has not been overly impacted by Instagram, one that hasn't been overly impacted by Hollywood or for that matter, Mr. Olympia, professional bodybuilders or whatever. Just having an image that is actually going to be a good, sustainable, body weight, and then it's going to be different for what your body type is, and being okay with that, being okay with the way that God made us. You don't have to make adjustment. You don't have to change things about the way that God made you. Just be healthy, just be disciplined, and you probably fall off the wagon every once in a while. That's all right. Stuff is seasonal sometimes. Just get back on. Just, it's not about being perfect. It's just about being willing to try again, even though you fail. Just keep the good work up, Now, I will say that I do still think that there's a place for this medication, in particular the Wegovy, the weight loss, this prescribed for weight loss. Because although, for the most part, I've noticed that people that get these gastric bypass surgeries and whatever, that a lot of them end up big again, and then they get the procedure again and they end up big again. There's often that does happen. But the ones that are actually able to adopt a new discipline and they have a support system that will help them just to, maintain. I know some folks that have done that also. So if people are the ones that maybe they had a bad run, maybe they had clinical depression and they piled on the weight and they got that under control, they figured out what was going on, and they need a shot in the arm, as it were. They need something that just to give them a boost to get them going down the road. Okay. But if you're going to do that, then you're going to need a support system to keep you on the right path. And I will argue that since you're really only talking about 1% of people having the really bad
Side effects.
Yeah, the side effects. You're only really talking about 1%. So then you can look at this and say, and evaluate if it's going to be effective at getting the average person that takes it, say Wegovy, to lose 50 pounds or more. And if they have a support system to help them keep that weight off, Is that going to be better for them, their lifespan? Is that going to be better than the risk that they're going to have of dying from a heart attack or something later because they're morbidly obese? And to that question, if they can get the right support system and adopt a regimen that, that can be a lifelong thing, for that person, I'd say I think it's a positive. But if it's just going to be used basically as I don't have to be disciplined, let me just do this, then I say that it's just another in a long line of gimmicks that's being shown, that take this pill, eat as many Krispy Kremes as you want, and the weight will just fall off. You don't have to change your habits. You don't have to go to the gym. Matter of fact, you don't even have to have a gym membership. And the weight will just fall off. You don't even have to do push-ups and sit-ups. You don't even have to get your heart rate up. Don't go for walks. Just sit on the couch, eat as many Krispy Kremes as you want, take this magic pill, and the weight will just fall off. Before you know it, you'll be looking like what? You'll be looking like J-Lo in no time. So anyhow, that's my time. I think this is a important conversation. Folks got to be healthy, especially black men. We don't have as much time as other folks. What is it? I think the average lifespan for Black American men is 65. It's 65. You don't have time to get this stuff together. You got to get it together now. You don't have time. I'm 49 years old. That's 65. Man, I got to live longer than that. And the only way that that's going to happen is for us to do a better job taking care of our health.
Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, reminder, ladies and gentlemen, in case for those of you who still do not know that we have gone through daylight savings, yes, we have. I know your phone does it automatically for you, but for those of you who maybe have to go somewhere early in the morning tomorrow morning, you got a Zoom meeting, you got to go to the office, got to drop off the kids. Remember, we have lost an hour. This is not the good daylight savings one where you gain one in the fall. No, we just lost an hour. So good reminder there. Check us out next week, Dr. Thunder's channel, another riveting episode of Case Closed. Getting ish done on Wednesday. Okay. And meanwhile, all kinds of things going on out there in the world. Elon Musk is suing OpenAI, amongst other fun things. But until we meet again, shout out to the sponsor of the show, $75 dropped by Carlo, 75 Canadian dollars dropped by Carlo. Shout out to everybody in the chat, AM1, Sean, Carlo again, and everyone else, every rude boy. And shout out to the panel one more time. Until next time, peace. We're out.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what was behind the curtain, the face of evil's lurking, with the shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannon could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, come, make we get it. because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make me get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
I bring conclusion to the game with a contusion to your brain, man. Know what I'm saying?
You might as well maintain the same frame, but the mindset never went insane. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I think, man, maybe that lame man was right.
Your rhymes is falling off. I pull out the sawed off and blow your top off. Anyways.
You blow my top off.
Why is that funny? It rhymes.
Well, it definitely sounds sus.
Nah, you know, I that's where I know that's where